Guys, I need to get serious for a moment. Or, as serious as is possible for Bane Shakes Charlie. I have had a hankering for some penis jokes all morning that I'm trying to restrain for this intro. See, we're not just talking about any old game that I love and cherish dearly here. The main segment we're covering is Arkham City. Arkham City is unambiguously my favorite game of all time. I will be as objective as I can be to present things here, but there may be times that I just start bursting my joy all over everything within my reach. Wait, that sounded like a penis joke. I'll try to be serious again. Arkham City is legitimately so important to me. It's such a great game that even though it drops 2 balls with mediocre depictions of my top 2 comics characters, that still has no impact on me ranking the game as my favorite. I've been talking about it for years. Some of those times, I was drunk. There are family members I would cut out of my life if I had to choose between them and Batman Arkham City. And I'm not just talking about the obvious choices. I can't just jump immediately into City since we have some interesting tidbits first, but God, I am so ready. So passionate. So close. Like and subscribe if you really want to see me get in there. This is a briefish history of the Arkham series. Here's a fun alternate history for you. Remember last time when I said, small problem, Arkham Asylum was the Batman missing from the Wii? Well, guess what, motherfuckers? Arkham Asylum was in consideration to be released on the Wii. Some prototype footage was publicly released in 2016 by Red Fly Studio, the team that worked on this port in the few weeks it was a real project, showing off some basic gameplay. Charmingly low-poly Batman starts off overlooking Gotham City on a rooftop before jumping down and partaking in both some choking and some fisting, showing that the gameplay duo of stealth and combat was being emulated for this version. And a Joker hot air balloon drops off some extra thugs. That's all there is to it, but for a gameplay demo from such an early version, it honestly looks quite competent. I tried to judge whether combat was motion control, as Wii games sometimes suffered from forced waggle controls, but the cursor is just barely moving enough that I'm not too sure if it was being shaken intentionally, or if it's the usual jittery thing most people naturally do pointing the Wiimote during games. Now, this was from such an early stage of development that speculation is practically useless, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Looking at these assets, these look more like not locked up goons out on the streets, and I highly doubt anyone would be flying Joker balloons around on Arkham Island. So I'd wager they were considering making a prequel game about Joker taking over City Hall, the thing that happened just off screen right before Arkham Asylum begins. If someone out there in the void that is modern society can confirm or deny my theory, that would be real neato mosquito. Send me an email or something. Hey, guess what, motherfuckers? I have 2 cancelled Arkham Asylum ports to talk about with you today. It's like goddamn Christmas up in this bitch. Back in the aughts, it was quite common to see unique versions of games on handhelds, and Arkham Asylum was also being considered for the Nintendo DS. This one didn't come to light until 2020, but this one is even more exciting. It's not just video footage like the Wii version. This is a playable file. I'm controlling this. Right off the bat, we get this sweeping shot of the asylum, and Batman perched atop a tower for the menu, while violin music plays. The art style and the music both make it feel like this would have been a very unique experience from the main game. Once you start it up, you're on a rooftop in Gotham City itself, surrounded by other buildings. There is only one other room, an inner office of some sort, and in both locations there are individuals dressed in vague Bane paraphernalia, flexing. Since they appear slightly different, I'm not sure if these were 2 different Bane thugs, or if one of them was Bane himself, but obviously, Bane Shakes Charlie is on board either way. For this prototype, the main screen is interestingly a mock-up of a map, and what I'm guessing is supposed to be the life bar, as the silhouette drains its color next to one of the thugs. And the touchscreen is where the action happens. Not unheard of for the DS, but not the most common, so I'd wager there were plans for touch controls on something like gadgets. There are distinct buttons for kicking and punching, making me wonder how combat would have played out differently, as well as a run button and a sneak button, so clearly stealth was also in the works at this stage. Finally, there is the utility belt, which only shows batarangs and some generic blank options. That's all there is to it. It definitely lines up with the developer Full Fat. They are a British game developer who, at the time, focused on handheld device games, with several WB licensed titles, most relevantly a Game Boy Justice League show tie-in, Justice League Chronicles, which I may come back to at some point here on my channel. Slight delays completed, now for the real deal. Arkham City. God, I am so erect. After blowing all our fucking nuts off with the runaway success that was Arkham Asylum, Rocksteady could have just coasted, lazily locking Batman in marginally larger buildings each time for easy sequels, and people would have bought it. I am the hypothetical guilty party. I would have bought Batman locked in a mattress factory and he's fighting the Eraser this time. Thankfully, Rocksteady instead took one look at the high bar they had set, declared they could get over that easy peasy, and then blew our fucking nuts off harder the second time. Like, the audacity of Rocksteady. Strolling in and just dropping an action-adventure title in the same must-play tier as Ocarina of Time, Dead or Alive Paradise, or Prince of Persia. Wait, who the fuck put that second one on there? That was definitely not mine. It's pretty apparent they had ambitions for the sequel before they'd shipped the first game. Paul Dini obviously knew where he wanted to take the story, considering the Arkham City blueprints hidden in the Asylum, and you can see some intentional narrative through-lines if you play Asylum with knowledge of City. Likewise, gameplay unfurls naturally from what we already saw, so I'd wager these new ideas were on the back burner in someone's mind as they were wrapping game numero uno. Let's look at these gameplay changes. Free-flow combat is the most noticeable upgrade of the main systems. Just at the outset, moving between opponents is just a little less stiff, and Batman's response time is a little faster, so you have more flexibility in how you want to respond to attacks. You can also counter tossed crates back at their cinder. Good timing actually lets you dodge a smidge more gunfire than Asylum allowed, and there's even a smoke pellet gadget. It gives you a prompt to drop if someone's preparing to shoot at you. As crates and guns were the most unbalanced portions of combat last time, it's nice to see them ironed out better. Obviously, they are still threats, but now they mesh in with the rest of combat by giving better options to handle them. And shit, did your options expand. The one move that doesn't return is the combo throw, presumably both because it lacked a practical reason to prioritize using it, and also because so much fighting happens from rooftops. Obviously, Batman doesn't like dropping people from lethal distances, unlike some games. Or, some movies. In its place though, we get 3 new combo moves to join the instant takedown. There's a disarming move that breaks enemy weapons so they can no longer be used against you, a bat swarm that forces closer enemies back for some breathing room, and a takedown that instantly KOs every enemy stunned on the ground with a batarang. These are surprisingly balanced options, whether you're fighting to survive or trying to maximize points in the challenge maps. The Bat Swarm borders on OP and will make your life easier as you're learning City's free flow system, but it doesn't quite get there considering just how useful all of the others still are. You can also refrain from using these right away, and the game gradually enters a focus mode where a slow motion effect increases along with your combo counter, which would be a perfect setup for a flash game if we are ever lucky enough for such a thing. Quick firing gadgets is beefed up nicely too. The Batarang and the Grapnel Batclaw both return, except now the Batclaw has an extra slam option added instead of just bringing thugs closer for punching. Explosive gel can be dropped and then manually detonated at your leisure to ground stun anyone standing in range. The new plot-related gadgets also have dedicated quickfire options, but I'll get back to those shortly. Predator Stealth didn't need massive upgrades since it was so great in the first place, but still received them anyway, and they are a blast. Enemy behaviors are much more elaborate, both in superficial ways just to give some atmospheric depth, and also in functional ways that make them smarter. For example, if someone sees you grapple up to a vantage point, they will start shooting down vantage points so you cannot use them. They also have access to new gear now. Grenades to flush you out of locations where they cannot see you, goggles to scan vantage points, signal jammers to block detective mode, and mines, which sit on the ground and go kaboom if you step on them, as mines do. Thugs can also take civilians hostage, whom they will kill for an instant fail state if they see you. Obviously, hostages are only allowed to die in cutscenes here. Since enemies have so many new moves, so do you. You can instantly do takedowns from more positions, such as out of floor grates, behind flimsy plywood panels, or even above doorways, and moves like the inverted takedown now prevent thugs from screaming until you drop them, giving you more time to relocate before your position is given away. You can also do faster, louder takedowns on the spot at your own discretion. Not exclusively tied to stealth, though certainly connected. Gliding. It is much less rigid now. You can lean in forward to pick up speed and lose altitude, pull back to slow down and briefly gain height, and you can do either as subtly or as immediately as you desire. Fuck it up as much as you want, Batman doesn't take fall damage. There are also some augmented reality training side missions which unlock a boost for your grapnel gun to launch you directly into a glide. All you have to do is fly through rings. I could have sworn superhero games learned not to do these anymore. Really? You too? God damn you all to hell. I shouldn't get too off track without talking about enemy types, because they are, again, beefed up like whatever new promotional item Taco Bell currently has. If Taco Bell would answer my goddamn emails, I could have plugged in an ad there, but no, I guess I'll keep being poor instead. Basic enemies operate essentially the same way as before, grabbing weapons as they can and otherwise just attacking, although now up to 3 thugs can do basic melee attacks at the same time, requiring the correct number of counters. Replacing the high-security inmates from Asylum are armored enemies who block you unless you stun them, although stuns have been upgraded to mix up the strategy. Now, you do beatdowns, where if you can hit a stunned enemy enough times rapidly, without interruption, it's a knockout. Armored guys can also pick up weapons, and in stealth they cannot be choked out with a silent takedown. Enemy weapons still include melee items, boxes for chuckin', guns, and the stun batons which prevent your attacks from the front. Now, anyone can pick up a knife instead of being locked to one enemy type. Notice, these long-ass things appear to be compensating for something. You still can't counter knife attacks normally, but holding counter while they swipe at you lets you dodge their attacks. And if you have especially good timing, you can instant KO the knifey boy by releasing the button in between each swipe. Also new are riot shields, which are usually just car doors being used as improvised riot shields, which block most basic attacks. A new move, pressing stun dodge dodge into them, immediately teaches them the delightful taste of concrete. There are also special enemy types who ignore pickup weapons because they have their own means to kick your ass. There are now ninja ladies who are faster than your typical thugs. Their swords cannot be dropped or disabled, and they mix things up with either normal attacks you can counter, or blade combos which are longer and more dynamic than those of normal thugs. They will also sometimes dodge normal attacks, and almost always dodge gadgets unless you happen to corner them. Then there are the Abramovici twins, Mr. Hammer and Mr. Sickle, who were formerly conjoined at the shoulder. They're pretty tanky, and you do have to dodge all of their attacks, but you can otherwise just pound away at those big ol' fellers. Finally, Titan Thugs return, modified slightly. Batarangs to the face are now ineffective, and stuns have another upgrade. You have to hit them with 3 stuns in rapid succession for a mega stun. Once you're choking and riding those big daddies, you also have added options to manually make them charge or slam into the ground. One less flashy note, but Titan Thugs also just work better in free flow. In Asylum, you basically had to accept that you would likely drop your combo, since you'd be stuck waiting for them to charge before you could do anything. Since you can now go on the offensive against them whenever you want, you can technically get some mega points by taking them down with a high combo. I love Batman's suite of gadgets here. The Batarang, Batclaw, Explosive Gel, RC Batarang, Cryptographic Sequencer, Sonic Batarang, and Line Launcher return in similar capacities with a slew of tweaks and upgrades. And you even start out the game with most of these equipped this time. The Sonic Batarang does have to be unlocked again, probably because it's borderline OP, and Batman still doesn't carry the Line Launcher until part of the way into the story, probably because I bullied him too hard about it in the last video. Sorry guys. There are, of course, new gizmos. For one, the aforementioned smoke pellets, which you can also toss preemptively to disorient thugs. Early in the story, Batman just invents a remote electrical charge on the spot to shoot little bursts of electricity. They power up various generators for puzzles, but also have different effects on different enemy types. Most notably, armored enemies are knocked back by this thing. There is also a remote disabler, which deactivates guns and explodes mines, non-lethally, of course. There is a plot reason guns can be deactivated here, in case you were trying to CinemaSins this shit, ye who lack media literacy. Finally, there are a couple of variations of freeze grenades. You can probably guess what they do, and you can probably guess who invented them. If you need a hint, it is not Fires and it was not Firefly. One completely immobilizes an individual, and the other immobilizes only the feet of several thugs, so they cannot turn to attack in the other direction. Challenge maps for combat and stealth are back, and greater than ever. Predator maps actually get the bigger tweak. In Asylum, the extreme difficulty versions primarily rigged vantage points with explosives, but thankfully, City limits difficulty to enemy variety instead. It also introduces campaigns, 3 consecutive maps with limited retries and modifiers that you are required to use at some point. Some modifiers are good, like your attacks ignoring shields, armor, and stun batons, or instant knockout batarangs. And some modifiers are bad, like time limits, limited health, or random thug invincibility. You have to know the maps well and strategize where you, personally, will need the buffs or can handle the handicaps. Even just choosing difficulty settings has some adjustments that really help replayability. Asylum just offered easy, normal, and hard, and on hard it completely took away the counter icon. City offers all 3, but leaves the counter icon for hard mode. You just have to be really good at using it. It also adds a new Game Plus mode, unlocked by beating the game on at least normal. You get to keep all of your upgrades, gadgets, and Riddler collectibles, but enemies also get to have late game options from the start, and this mode takes out the counter icons. It's a much better balance for really challenging yourself. That's the gameplay gist, but we'd be remiss to not talk about the world building here. This game took the environmental storytelling, the lore, and all the little things that made the first game feel like a real place of its own, and shot that shit so full of Titan that the attention to detail is knocking your fucking teeth in. The intro alone has several characters secretly, and also blatantly, included for later on. In one part of the game, if you backtrack the wrong way significantly enough, Killer Croc jumps out at you for a unique conversation, and he isn't even in the rest of the game. There's similar stuff for Calendar Man. Prior to Arkham City, Calendar Man was popularly known as just a lame gimmick villain to the wider public that had actually heard of him in the first place. Rocksteady instantly turned opinions on him 180 degrees, and he doesn't even do anything in the plot. He is locked up in Two-Face's basement, probably for sex reasons, but if you visit him on one holiday each month, as in the holiday is taking place in the real world for you and me, he will narrate disturbing yet darkly humorous stories about how he serial killed people in ways relevant to each holiday. The biggest lore bits come from snippets unlocked for you to read. As you're solving riddles in the game world, little database blurbs pop up. Don't ignore the database stuff, or you'll miss a lot of interesting context. For example, Hugo Strange, the overarching villain who came up with the plan to dump all the criminals into the titular Arkham City, is even significantly responsible for things we saw last time. We already saw his files, and so we knew he was working for the Asylum. As it turns out though, the Asylum was working for Hugo Strange. Quincy Sharp was merely his puppet. Combinations of drugs and technologically exacerbated psychological manipulation have Sharp firmly under Strange's control, and were also the cause of the mental breakdown leading him to believe he is the ghost of Amadeus Arkham. It's the same reason for all of the lunatic enemies last time. Strange was running highly unethical experiments, mainly conditioning people to serve him perfectly, as Tiger Guards. That's right, the private military he has contracted to guard Arkham City have been personally conditioned to suit his needs. This even reflects in gameplay too, as the Tiger Guards are the only goons who never enter a panicked state during stealth in the game. However, since this was experimental, the lunatics we saw were early failures from before Hugo perfected his techniques. Even with my ceaseless adoration for Arkham City, there are a few things I need to address. Don't worry, these are fairly minor compared to some of my videos. Asylum still has an unambiguous leg up over City in one very specific category, and that is the heavy, horrific dread saturating that game's atmosphere. As you're playing Asylum, you can't help but feel like everything is trying to convey this dark, magical realism from just how wrong the Asylum's horrors feel. While you'll get washed over by waves of that feeling on occasion here, like when you realize Penguin keeps human corpses on display like trophies, it's by and large just not there. Sure, this shitty prison ghetto still carries a lot of character. The environment cries out with details implying how the socioeconomic failures of Gotham have led to this point, but as someone who loves atmospheric horror, its broader absence in this game is noteworthy. The game also does a better job telling a more elaborate story, but it does have some growing pains, mainly because different plot elements end up more disparate than the other games in the series. It's like there's two main plots with only a little overlap. There's the overarching Hugo Strange stuff, which is there to justify the setting and get things in motion, which then mostly just lingers in the background while a Joker plot takes precedence. Hugo occasionally pipes up over the radio to do an hourly countdown, so you don't forget about him.
Those guys are armed with the latest military weapons. If Joker gets his hands on that stuff, well, you know.
He won't. I won't let him.
My evil plan commences in 4 hours. Be there or be square, Batman.
Finally, let's look at women again. I do think Arkham City is an improvement on Arkham Asylum, in the most technical of senses. Don't get me wrong, someone was still horny as fuck in the design room, but between the mildly less oppressively horrific setting, ever so slightly lowering the mood whiplash between boobs boobing boobily and human rights violations, and the fact that a couple of women are given more chance to showcase this newfangled thing called autonomy, I do think it is at least baby steps in the right direction. Story time. Wait, no, I sort of have to cover one more thing. This game is deceptively complex to talk about thoroughly. Usually, on a briefish history, I only cover base game content and I shove additional content in for later. I will mostly be doing that here too. However, Arkham City has the most gray zone situation for whether or not to cover Catwoman's content. See, Rocksteady incentivized buying the game new back on launch by including Catwoman's content as a free download with new copies, so it was technically DLC. However, she's not just an unlockable character for the challenge maps. She has her own campaign, which meshes in with Batman's story, and is the only DLC character who can also free roam the map at your leisure, post-story. She feels so intentionally crafted as a part of the main experience, and most people these days will be playing the remaster, which includes everything by default, so it would be a disservice to leave her out. I'll cover her story interwoven as it plays out, but she deserves a quick gameplay rundown too. Catwoman takes and deals less damage than Batman, but is likewise faster and much quieter. You can do a full sprint during stealth without being heard. She can also climb on very specific ceilings, typically the underside of walkways, with a special takedown from there. Other than her combat takedown, her combo moves are unique. One whips around to buy more elbow room, not dissimilar to the Bat Swarm, and the other actually whips at ankle level to ground several enemies at once. Her limited selection of gadgets include the aforementioned whip, bolas for her primary projectile, and caltrops. Her traversal is a bit different. You still grapple to a point, but since she is using a whip, she only goes so far and has to pounce the rest of the way up tall enough walls. It works, but the timing the game considers perfect is a bit spotty, though it also doesn't really penalize you. It also sort of launches her distance that feel a bit too far to be plausible. I don't know, it's sufficient, but it's less fun traversing with Catwoman than with Batman. Now, story time. Some thugs are guarding a safe hidden behind a painting of Cain and Abel, but they are being stalked by, oh look, Catwoman! She beats them up, and as she's stealing schematics from the safe, a meatball holds a gun to her head. Cut to the sound of Bruce Wayne being electroshocked while having a deep voice measuring contest against Hugo Strange. We flash back to a press conference he's put together, protesting the idea of turning one of Gotham's poor people districts into a free-for-all battle royale prison ghetto.
The infamous Playboy millionaire has never been one to...
It's billionaire, Ricky. Millionaires are so last year.
Jesus. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna go on a leftist rant, no matter how badly I want to. It's just sort of an unspoken rule we all agree upon to keep enjoying Batman shit. So Batman's speech is interrupted by, if Bruce was a millionaire previously and now he's a billionaire, that means he's usurping the value his employees actually generated. You cannot gain $1 billion without the exploitation of the working class. Record profits are unpaid wages. Shit, I did the thing. So Bruce's speech is interrupted by Tiger Guards assaulting and arresting him for peaceful protest. Thank goodness this kind of thing doesn't happen IRL. Oh hey, that's my city. Hugo reveals he knows that Bruce is Batman, and now that he's in Arkham City, Hugo can begin his mysterious ultimate plan, Protocol 10. In the entryway, Bruce sees the guards beat a man for being Black Mask. He is intercepted by the Penguin, who wants revenge per some rich kid squabbling, and despite a slight concussion, Bruce effortlessly breaks out of his handcuffs and knocks them all silly before asking Alfred to airdrop in the Batsuit. He hears that Two-Face is the meatball who took Catwoman at gunpoint, and decides Catwoman probably knows what Protocol 10 is, so he saves her and takes down Two-Face. Catwoman doesn't know what Protocol 10 is. Womp womp. Joker attempts to assassinate Catwoman, literally just to get Batman's attention, which leads him to a church where Harley and some thugs have taken hostages. True story time. You know I especially mean it because I'm more than a PNG file right now. It's October 18th, 2011. Arkham City has just been released. It's a Tuesday evening, and I'm finally done with both school and the slow-ass install times on PS3 to finally play the game I was most hyped for. Ever. I can safely say I will never be hyped for any future game as hard as I was hyped for Arkham City. I have been playing for about half an hour, and I get to this point. My mother, the most puritanical pastor's wife of a woman that you could possibly imagine, is passing through the living room. I typically wouldn't hear her spewing vitriol about most things, generally speaking, but she randomly drops in a single sentence filled with so much spite it's like the verbal version of Bilbo's scary face in Fellowship of the Ring. You probably like that she's dressed that way. Hey, Mother. What the fuck? That absolutely took the wind out of my sails, and I stopped playing the game for the evening shortly thereafter. And to answer your question, spitefully, yes, I fucking do. Trauma dump over. These guys are a medical team who have come into Arkham City under the protection of some of the surviving Arkham guards, and their horrible trigger safety. Batman helps them secure the church, and then Joker pisses off God. At this point, dialogue from Harley, the goons, and even video footage from Joker's RC Sniper Rifle Clubhouse are all pointing to Joker being sick from all the monster juice last time. Batman enters Joker's lair through the goddamn industrial furnace. Conviction? Never heard of it. When he finally fights his way into Joker's main office, he's dead. Except no, he's not. Batman gets his third concussion of the night. Alright, bro, you know, like, medical shit and that kind of a thing. Asking for a friend. How many concussions can I take in one night before I fucking die?
What?
While this is going on, Catwoman is scheming to break into Hugo's vault of confiscated goodies, since she do be thieving stuff. She picks up her gadgets from her apartment and goes to Poison Ivy to ask for help. Ivy immediately goes on the offensive, threatening the most horrific plant-based body horrors and sending every mind-controlled goon she has to attack, because Catwoman was a shitty house sitter once and forgot to water her plants. Catwoman tries to talk reason and ends up in a situation very similar to a lot of fan art I may have seen, in passing. Batman awakens to Joker putting his Titan poison blood inside of Batman, and to raise the stakes, he's been having his blood smuggled out to emergency rooms for months now, so Batman doubly has to find a cure so a bunch of Gotham citizens also don't die. I'm going to fess up, I don't get how this poison is supposed to work beyond plot convenience. Now, to be fair, I am not medically inclined. I really feel like I could definitely get 8 of those.
No. Listen, dude, I'm telling you, if you put any more than 5 up there, it's going to rupture.
But even as an ignoramus, things just aren't lining up. For one, he's fucking lucky Batman has a compatible blood type. I'm just assuming Joker has O-negative blood, the universal donor type, because it lines up more neatly with his plot. Even disregarding that, it took Joker about 18 months suffering from the poison before lingering on the brink of death like he is here. Batman fucking speedruns that process in one night, and in fact appears closer to death in one instance than even Joker had managed by that point. Now, I'll grant that Batman's intense physical activity could likely exacerbate things, whereas Joker's been under varying degrees of bed rest for the most part. Maybe even individual genetic differences, or the fact that Batman, somehow, willpowered against the Titan last time. Somehow! However, I am probably working too hard to defend something the game didn't think quite so hard about. At one point, an update from Oracle and Robin indicates that Gotham City's hospitals are expecting fatalities by morning. So, clearly, this is meant to be a magical poison that kills everyone exclusively based not on when they were infected, but purely on a specific date on the calendar. Joker defenestrates Batman with a cell phone so he can leave voicemails throughout the game, like a clingy girlfriend.
The anger, the frustration, the hints of repressed sexual tension. Oh, hang on. Is that just when you see me? Ooh.
And tells Batman to go find Mr. Freeze, as he was working on a cure for Joker before he went missing. This is probably the best time to talk about something City does so much better than Asylum. Side missions. There are actually side missions! A few of them are more general, like saving political prisoners from convicts, or simply talking to some dudes. Not a joke, one side mission has a bunch of guys you save in the story mode call you go to talk to them, and then they hand you a gadget upgrade, and then it's over. It is a 30-second side mission once you hit the start point. The rest are better than that one. Riddler is back, and he took the entire medical team hostage because they apparently didn't lock the church down well enough. There are a whopping 400 goddamn riddles, trophies, challenges, and the like you have to complete. How I feel about this number changes depending on several factors, such as whether I'll unlock a trophy for doing them, or if I'm trying to record gameplay efficiently for this video. So let me tell ya, sister, it was real obnoxious this time. Thankfully, locating these is slightly buffed from Asylum's method of, I hope I find the map he left sitting around first. The Batcomputer will tag enemies who are secretly on Riddler's payroll too, and if you can get them alone, you can interrogate them for the locations of any riddle shit they helped place, which means you have to take extra care to not accidentally knock them out first. Once you have enough completed, Riddler will send you the locations of a massive jigsaw-esque death trap containing a hostage, and these are legitimately some of my favorite parts of the game. The last one is especially memorable. Riddler's lair is rigged with rails, and the remaining hostages are forced to keep circling because if they stop, their heads will get blown up. Obviously, you have to try and not disturb their routes as you work your way towards taking Riddler down. What? Next, you can find Bane holed up in an abandoned toy factory. He's hunting down the remaining Titan containers Joker and Penguin are using on their henchmen. Batman and Bane enter a tentative alliance to destroy the rest. Once you've found your half in the game world, the two of you have to fend off invading enemies, whose faction actually changes depending on when in the story you play it. Bane reveals he actually hoarded his half, and then this happens.
Now, do me a favor and die! Ah! No!
God damn it. This version of Bane is so stupid. How is that tiny-ass gate supposed to hold him back anyway? Next, let's flash back to the opening of the game. An inmate with a unique character model, finger bangs you. Bang! This is Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot, purportedly. He's gonna get convoluted later in the timeline, but that game's not technically out as of recording, so there's still some ambiguity as to how they're handling things. For now, we'll just assume this is Floyd. Hugo hired Deadshot to take out several political prisoners, and as you find his victims, the crime scenes reveal he is doing unnecessarily complex trick shots, as he do. Eventually, you find his list of targets, including Bruce Wayne, and then Batman. There is a plot reason Hugo did this. Batman intercepts his in-progress hit, and then Deadshot's boss fight is just moving to the next cover when he isn't looking. That is really anticlimactic. If they had just reskinned a normal stealth encounter with him being one of the thugs, it would have been better as the bare minimum. Next there's serial killer Victor Zsasz. He has rigged the payphones around Arkham City to ring, and if you can answer the next phone in time, he won't kill his hostages. Weirdly, he seems to actually be doing this out of a place of something resembling repentance. He actually spends time on the calls confessing the story of how he got this way, and it's surprisingly nuanced for the story of a man who murders people and then carves a tally mark into his flesh to keep track. If you do well enough tapping his calls, you can choose to hang up on him before he's even done talking. Next is Stir. Again at the start, if you know where to look, there's a mysterious guy watching you. He also does this throughout the game world, and basically if you find him enough times, he introduces himself as Azrael, secret ninja guy, and he predicts that bad shit is gonna happen in the next game. He's just a setup for the sequel. Next is there's another serial killer. And again, he's at the start, if you know where to look. If you pay attention in the church, one of the doctors has apparently gone mad and cut his own face off, and he's clutching one of those medical boxes you chuck organs in. Throughout the game world, you can find victims of the identity thief, who keeps stealing parts of faces. One crime scene has Bruce Wayne's fingerprints all over, and a witness even ends up fingering Bruce Wayne. Like the crime way. To clarify, he fingers Bruce Wayne in the crime way. That actually just made the context worse. Once you find the killer's lair, you learn he is acclaimed surgeon Thomas Elliot, aka the Batman villain Hush. And he has surgically constructed Bruce Wayne's face from all the stolen pieces, and implicitly his fingerprints too. Normally, Comics Hush already knows Bruce Wayne is Batman, but here he's just like, "You can't stop me from doing evil as Bruce Wayne, Batman." So this version's a little behind. He leaves, and since Batman has to hack one entire door, Batman declares that he's just too far gone and he's probably already escaped this heavily fortified, highly secured prison facility. The world's greatest detective was like, "Nah, I'll just get a wanted murderer later." Finally, later in the game, after saving reporter Vicky Vale from Joker doing a wee bit of trolling, you catch a glimpse of a man putting on a big hat watching them from afar. This is Mad Hatter, and this is a problem. See, he has mind control technology, and he kidnaps blondes to be Alice, as in Wonderland, and then he tends to kill them in a manic state. So knowing this, the first time I played, I was somehow not the least bit suspicious when Alfred radios immediately after and says, "Hey Batman, we just figured out how to cure your poisoning. Yes, in a side mission. Go take your medicine." I might have been a dumbass as a teenager. Thank God I grew out of that. Batman passes out and awakens to discover that, aw nuts, Mad Hatter was using post-hypnotic suggestion on him. Batman fights off a handful of mind-controlled thugs in rabbit masks in what clearly should have been a challenge map too, before breaking free. It's actually a little sad. Jervis just wanted someone who would be able to defend him, since he's small and weak and locked up with cannibals and killers. His previous plan was just to turn on the live nudes neon sign outside his hideout and hope idiots would walk in so he could mind control them. Surprisingly, this did work at least 6 times. Back over in the main plot, Batman tracks down Mr. Freeze. Penguin has kidnapped him in his turf war against Joker, alongside a bunch of undercover cops, and an entire fucking shark. There's a bit where you have to walk slowly across the ice so you don't die. Not dissimilar to having to walk slowly in Croc's lair, so you don't die. Alright, Rocksteady, I'll consider twice to be coincidental. If you include another Batman walks slowly so he doesn't die bit in your next game, I will accuse you of having the world's most weirdly specific kink. After securing Freeze and the hostages, Penguin drops Batman into an archaic below-ground chamber for housing and powering up Solomon Grundy, a massive zombie. It makes sense in the lore stuff. Don't skip the database. Batman clearly appreciates fighting a zombie because it's not murder if they're already dead, and he rips his fucking heart out.
Fatality.
After securing Penguin, Freeze is like,
"Sorry, bro. Without the blood of, like, a mystical ninja who keeps getting resurrected, I just can't make you a cure."
Batman's like,
"Hey, I know a mystical ninja who keeps getting resurrected."
Conveniently, Penguin has a mystical ninja who works for the mystical ninja who keeps getting resurrected right there. A quick chase and a tracking device later, Batman briefly meets with Robin to trade a gadget for some of his blood. This is the only thing Robin gets to do in the story mode. Womp womp. So the mystical ninja Batman is going to meet is Ra's al Ghul, which should actually be pronounced Raz al Ghul in Arabic, but the character's creators kept getting it wrong in the 70s, and now the fandom gets pissy if you say it the correct way. He has access to an alchemical concoction called Lazarus, which heals injuries and brings him back to life whenever he gets dead. Batman tracks the ninja to Wonder City, an archaic steampunk city deep below Gotham that Ra's tried to run 200 years ago before all the citizens went kooky bananas from overexposure to the resurrection chemical. Batman has to hack into the 200-year-old steampunk robots to collect archaic steampunk video footage to find the secret entrance. It may sound like I am mocking this, but no. This kind of wacky shit is exactly why I like comics. Comic book adaptations should all have this kind of zany stuff. If the Batman 2 doesn't have mystical steampunk robots, we will riot. Batman nearly fucking dies right outside the entrance, so he tells Talia, Ra's daughter and Batman's fuck buddy, that he has no choice but to take the demon trials to lead the League of Assassins at her side. She leads him into a chamber, where he drinks a small portion of Lazarus, which will buy him a few more hours of health, and gives him crazy-ass hallucinations while Ra's tests him. So let me restate it clearly. Batman goes to an ancient order of assassins in a secret underground base where they initiate him by having him drink from a chalice of hallucinogenic substances where he must navigate through surrealist versions of the game's city. Assassin's Creed Unity didn't just rip off the idea, they fucking plagiarized the whole scene. Ra's gives Batman one final task: to fucking end his 600-year life. Batman's like, nah, I only kill one kind of immortal, and you're the wrong kind of immortal. Deal's off. So Ra's and Batman get into a fight, with Batman still slipping in and out of hallucinations. But Batman wins anyway, and steals some of his blood right out of his neck, which is not comfortable for my trypanophobia, let me tell you. Freeze makes a cure, though considering it comes out of the exact same centrifuge where the blood went in, I can't help but feel like he just mixed it into the blood like Kool-Aid, and that's nasty. However, he decides now is a great time to play hardball, and demands that Batman go and save his kidnapped wife from Joker first. Batman decides to play hardball right back, and tries to take it from him, leading to the best boss fight in the entire goddamn series. You have to use stealth, since you can't take him head on, but he's tracking your heat signatures, so he's always shortly behind you. Each time you do a takedown on him, Mr. Freeze learns from it, and you won't be able to do it again. It's a brilliant encounter that forces you to be strategic, but also quick on your feet. It also pretty much only happens because they were both being hot-headed, stubborn dude bros. Afterwards, Batman is like, yeah, I'll save your wife. If literally either of them had just stopped to take a deep breath and communicate, this all could have been avoided. What makes this worse is that Harley Quinn used their fight as an opportunity to break into the safe and steal the cure. So Batman has to break back into Joker's lair, this time through the industrial tunnel of boiling water, since we've established convection is not a thing. Oracle contacts Batman, because she's finally discovered what Protocol 10 is. Hugo Strange has been smuggling the tiger weapons in for the villains inside. This way, they look like an imminent threat, and he can justify using his worst-case scenario emergency measures to have his tiger guards exterminate everyone inside the prison city, wiping out Gotham's criminal element all at once. That's why the guns have remote disabling, so they can stop anyone who tries to fight back. And that's even why both Bruce Wayne and Batman are separate entries on Deadshot's list. Hugo is trying to waste Deadshot's time so that the world's deadliest assassin would willingly enter Arkham City and get killed during Protocol 10. Harley Quinn is inexplicably tied up inside, and instead of asking questions, Batman just untapes and retapes her mouth once or twice or 6 times. Batman is the one responsible for doing that. He has to fight a healthy Joker, who fights similarly to his thugs but can take more of a beating and is immune to combo takedowns. But right at the moment of victory, Protocol 10 begins and the roof is shelled in. Batman gets inconveniently trapped under the kind of rubble that is both too heavy for him to move but light enough it didn't rupture his organs. But before Joker can do or say anything, Talia shows back up to offer Joker the opportunity to run the League of Assassins. She is secretly trying to save Batman, as she coyly shows Batman she is wearing the tracker he planted on a ninja earlier, but she low-key just accidentally fucked everything up, though the player won't realize it yet. We are going to discover something later on that Joker would have had little choice but to reveal here, except by showing up and throwing around offers of immortality. She gave him literally the most convenient out he could have asked for. He kicks Batman in the head, concussing a very poisoned man for the 4th time this night, so he naturally passes out. I really hope the magical insanity juice works on brains too. At this point, we switch back to Catwoman, who is still hanging upside down hours later. The timing here is pretty unclear, since Protocol 10 hasn't started yet when she gets out, but it didn't seem to take her hours to get to Ivy. How long was she hanging there? Catwoman offers to get Ivy's last surviving houseplant out of the vault, so she reluctantly agrees to help, and uses her vines to compromise the vault so Selina can sneak in. You have to steal 3 keycards to even unlock the inner vault. You can't be spotted, or they'll lock down the vault permanently, and it removes your takedowns since Hugo is monitoring his men. Once you've secured the cards and unlocked the vault, you start taking down the guards, and you can hear the announcement to begin Protocol 10 in the background. Seriously, how long was she hanging there? She knocks Ivy's flower on the ground, because she is a cat, and then has a Pulp Fiction moment with her briefcase, lending even more convenient similarities for my purpose of covering this game after Unity. As she leaves the vault, she sees the tiger footage of Batman lying under the rubble. She can either escape Arkham City with her goods, or go and rescue Batman. If you choose to walk out, the end credits start rolling, Batman dies, and we hear Oracle sending out a final SOS because Joker's army is successfully killing everybody. Mercifully, the game will rewind you back into the vault after you pick that one. So Catwoman saves Batman as Tiger helicopters are bombing the ever-loving guano out of the inmates of Arkham City. Batman has a very controversial moment that will haunt discussions of this game until the inevitable heat death of the universe. Batman starts to prioritize saving Talia from Joker instead of focusing on the bloodbath, and Alfred and Oracle have to literally block his computer access to stop him from his plan. People have poured over everything, from Batman's mental health, to the progression of the poison, to implications revealed in Arkham Knight, arguing both positions for whether this is in character for Batman. Unfortunately, unlike, say, the Mysterious Man in Assassin's Creed Embers, there's nothing conclusive enough for me to make a definitive statement. That, and my answer would joke about their sex life, and the phrase gorilla grip would probably get dropped in there somewhere, and then I'd get called out because I criticized the games for being horny, and I already used my get out of jail free card during my trauma dump, so... Batman has to get the command code and break his way into Hugo's command tower, so you have to sneak up underneath actively hostile helicopters until you find one with it, before slowly working your way up the Wonder City Tower, overlooking the entire prison city, which, by the way, symbolically represents the idea of a panopticon set in the middle so that prisoners are reminded of the idea that authorities could be watching at any time, which is such a cool detail considering Hugo Strange is a psychologist. He finally gets in, satisfyingly kicks Hugo across a table, and retracts the command for Protocol 10. Hugo takes it from behind, and the game finally confirms that he put this plan together working for Raish, because Raish just demolished him from behind so thoroughly he can't even walk. Hugo fucking bursts. Batman tries to save Raish from falling to his death, and Raish commits mid-air seppuku to try and take Batman down. God, this game is so fucking gangster. With only Joker remaining, Batman goes to Monarch Theater, but Talia reveals she's actually not a hostage. She's a ninja after all. Everyone's getting taken from behind in Arkham City. She reveals she's had the cure, which she stole from Harley Quinn back at Steel Mill, and suddenly, all of the copious foreshadowing falls into place for Batman. He's too late though. Talia gets shot from the balcony by the Joker, who is still sick. The Joker kebab on the floor has actually been Clayface, pretending to be a healthy Joker for some time now. It's a fucking clever twist, though I have no doubt it confused the nuts off of anyone who doesn't know the comics and didn't pay attention to the world building in the first game. Clayface's boss fight is pretty cool. And it gets even cooler when Joker blows up the floor, sending everyone down to the Lazarus pit below, where Batman grabs Talia's sword and begins slicing Clayface's smaller constructs in two. Batman finally secures the cure with the power of non-consensual vor, and drinks his half. He stops Joker from making a move towards the Lazarus pit, which leads to Clayface getting electro-dunked into the pit and everything explodes. Guys, I absolutely rank Arkham City's ending amongst the best endings and twists in all of gaming, alongside greats like BioShock's reveal, the vault in Assassin's Creed 2, or discovering that Christie likes her gifts wrapped in black in— Wait, who the fuck keeps slipping this game in here? The point is, nothing I can say or do will even remotely do the scene full justice, so I'm just going to show it.
Quick! The cure! What are you waiting for? Come on! I killed your girlfriend, poisoned Gotham in hell. It's not even breakfast. But so what? We all know you'll save me.
Every decision you've ever made ends with death and misery. People die. I stop you. You'll just break out and do it again.
Think of it as a running gag. No! Are you happy now?
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
You know, that actually is pretty funny.
Batman carries Joker's body out of Arkham City, conflicted and devastated, where he leaves him with Commissioner Gordon. This ending is honestly so shocking because of just how unheard of it is to kill off the Joker. Except for Tim Burton's Batman. And also the DC animated universe. Twice. They killed him and also killed essentially a techno clone of him. They killed him 3 times if you include the alternate version of the first scene, which was aired when the TV channel had stricter censors in place. I suppose there was also The Dark Knight Returns, and Justice League The Nail, and Kingdom Come, and the time Batman was a vampire, and the time Batman was a pirate. You know what? Shush. It was still shocking, I swear. As the credits roll, Batman gets one more missed voicemail from Joker, where Joker just serenades him.
Only you can make this world seem right. Only you can make the darkness bright.
If you beat New Game Plus, you can also hear Harley Quinn singing Hush Little Baby briefly during the credits, which doubles down on an earlier Easter egg, a positive pregnancy test you can find in their hideout.
There. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna kill for you the whole damn world.
The series is never really going to do anything with this Easter egg. That's right, I played through the game twice so I could get a few seconds of audio footage that goes nowhere and would have been easier to crib from someone else. In my defense, I now have footage from the whole story in New Game Plus using the 1970s Batsuit and Big Head mode, which is very funny. Subscribe so you can see that at some point, and also the following content where Rocksteady flees the pregnancy plot thread like, well, running away from an undesirable pregnancy test. There's one last epilogue once the credits end. Catwoman goes to get her stuff to leave Arkham City for good, but her apartment explodes. Two-Face has stolen her loot, so he gets a proper boss fight to wrap things up. It's a stealth encounter, where he has a double grenade launcher, and his goons keep on coming. So you have to take opportunities to attack him when he's secluded. Just go ahead and do the ledge takedown on him, that way you can drop down and keep attacking before the goons can catch up. Thank me later. He reveals he only kept half of the loot and gave the other half to his goons, giving Catwoman one more type of side mission for the game world. Honestly, it's kind of wholesome seeing one of these villains giving his employees a bonus instead of torturing and killing them for failure. At this point, you can freely switch characters to wrap up anything you have left in the world to complete. Because even if you did all the side missions, there's one more unlisted item. Other than finding his discarded mask for a riddle, Scarecrow has been mysteriously absent. There's a mysterious radio code you can access on the sequencer, which is just a series of numbers.
9, 23, 9, 12.
This is a very simple letters to number cipher that translates to, I will return, Batman. Further, there's a boat between Amusement Mile and the Industrial District that has to be dive-bombed into just to loosen the lock in the first place, and then is guarded by the hardest security lock in the game.
The end.
God damn, I could talk about Arkham City all day. What an incredible game. I should probably cover some other stuff too though, so my YouTube channel doesn't go completely dead. The algorithm already doesn't seem to love me much, and I certainly can't risk losing the momentum I do have. Liking and commenting always helps my stuff out. You can subscribe to see the many things I have coming down the pipeline, and I greatly appreciate any support you're willing to show my previous content too. I promise, not everything is as egregiously horny, but I'll let you figure out what is and isn't.